Hello everyone, welcome back to another update from the Avalanche ecosystem. Another very special video today as we have FireStorm from the Dexalot team, also from Snail, but for today we're going to speak about Dexalot. FireStorm, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me. Always a pleasure to talk to ecosystem OGs about some of the cool things that are happening. So it's a pleasure, and thanks again for doing this. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Pleasure to have you. We're going to talk about some very interesting stuff today. A couple details up front. AVentures, of which I'm a part, did invest into Dexalot as well, so that's something for yourself to keep in mind. Furthermore, we're also going to do a tour of the UI. That's going to be in the middle. If you want to find specifically that part, just look for the chapters at the bottom of this video and you can go straight there. But of course, it would be recommended to hear some of the insights by FireStorm himself. I think there's some very interesting details about the first ever CLOB-based order book. Getting ahead a little bit above myself. In this video, let's just get into it. FireStorm, could you start with a little introduction of yourself and your background and maybe the Dexalot team?
Yes, absolutely. So, I'll take one step back before the introductions. AVentures being a partner to us is very special. We truly appreciate you guys' support. So I just wanted to say that and thank to you as well as the rest of your team. But with that, let me start. Yep, I'm FireStorm. I've been helping the Dexalot team for a little while now. Quite honestly, it really grew organically. But to talk a little bit about my background, I'm an electrical engineer by training. I've spent a little over a decade in Wall Street now. I've focused on equities, FX, automated market making, algorithmic execution. And most recently, I was leading an FX algorithmic execution team for a big bank. Just to give a very quick recap of what FX algos are, basically, these are pieces of software that automatically look at the entirety of the market, understand where the best trading opportunities are, and depending on a client's selection, intelligently trade in the market to achieve the best price for a client. Okay, that was my day job. I've been part of the crypto movement for a long time now. I actually worked on a decentralized exchange project in Ethereum many years ago now, 2017, 2018 timeframe. That project was on Ethereum. It had very interesting stuff. It was a great learning experience as well, but it was Ethereum. Funny enough, Gün Siraj was actually an advisor or had agreed to be an advisor for that project, but that project was eventually sort of slated to be sold because we achieved certain milestones. But that's how I sort of started following Gün. And, I've been tracking the progress of Avalanche since. I've been around since the earlier days of Avalanche, before Mainnet, before Everest, before Denali. And I was one of the guys in Discord, working with, the guys who were working on the node software, to be honest, like shout out to Dan from here, trying to break their software.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I spent a good amount of time shooting some videos for people to figure out how to launch nodes. Nowadays you don't really need my videos because the software is quite complete. There's an installer, but that's how I got involved. I was awarded the MVP title in the Avalanche Discord, which I'm, quite happy about, quite proud about. Yeah. But since then, I've been helping projects, and I connected with Dexalot over the summer because when it went live, I personally felt like, there were a few things that I could share with them, and I sent them a bunch of long emails. And to my surprise, they actually were happy about it. Some people take it, very personally. And, the guys that I'm about to talk about loved it. They sort of had discussions with me, and that's how I sort of became an advisor to the project. So that's me. But let me give you a little bit more about the rest of the team, right? So our CEO, Nihat, is a 30-plus year oil and gas field sort of technology executive. He has done quite a lot of things in the oil and gas field, primarily on the technology side for a big company like Schlumberger. For folks who know oil and gas, Schlumberger is a well-known brand. Our CTO, Cengiz, is also an ex-Wall Street person. He has built 5 trading systems up to now in his career. And him and Nihat actually go back about 30 years. They went to the same university. They've been close friends. They've done a lot of things together. And the story, I will save it for them to say it to, in another video maybe. But the story is that, Nihat at one point wanted to do something cool. Cengiz had sort of left Wall Street, and, they connected again to start this project, right? Separately to these two guys are the founders, right? More recently, we've onboarded Tim Shan, who is our COO and also my good tennis partner. I've actually played a lot of tennis with him. We've won tournaments together as doubles partners, and he's come on board as our COO. And he also has 30 plus years experience in operations across various institutions. But most recently, he was the COO of a large global macro hedge fund. If I was to summarize who he is, this is the guy that does not miss volleys, and this is the guy that does not miss anything shady, anything regulatory, or anything legal. And, we're extremely happy he's on board. Lastly, we've onboarded a CMO to our team, Jonathan Ackerman, who, is a really cool dude, like great guy to vibe with. And he spent a little over a decade at Red Bull. And also he was the founder and the chief revenue officer of a large community music festival called Zombie Pop Crawl. And I think at its peak, it was more than 50,000 people that was participating. And that's sort of the executive team. Besides these guys, of course, we have a robust team. We have a couple community managers, folks that are really helping us get the word out, get this going. Obviously, we have a development team. And I think at this point, we're about 10, 11 people. So it's a very nice, relatively good-sized team.
Yeah, really impressive resumes as well. I think probably in that way, one of the most experienced teams in DeFi at the moment. You already told a little bit about how you came together. But of course, you came together to build something, which is Dexalot, the first ever CLOB-based order book. First of all, for the people at home, what does CLOB stand for?
Of course, CLOB means Central Limit Order Book. It really, I know it sounds like a fancy word. We use the CLOB term only to distinguish from the swap facilities, what people call AMMs. But it's like CLOB is basically Binance, Coinbase, any of the big centralized exchanges actually use CLOBs. All traditional finance also uses CLOBs.
Yeah, and that's the one where you have the orders and the limit books, and you can kind of see like the buys and the sells, and like I think normally on Binance is the last sold price, but I think you had a survey or a little community poll about it, and in your case it's going to be the average price. Is that right? Yeah.
So I mean, this is very interesting because in traditional finance, each exchange, each front end that displays these order books, these buy and sell orders, do it differently. But if you're like a trader, you need to pick a price, particularly in DeFi, when you're entering your orders. And mid price is generally viewed as the fair market price for a given asset. Of course, there's multiple exchanges, but we did a poll and most people prefer the current mid price, which is the exact price between the best bid and the best offer prices. So but in general, we do. So one of our missions is to create a central limit order book on chain, on Avalanche, without compromising the look and feel that everybody has been used to from the Coinbases, the Binances, the Huobis of the world. And that's why we have that interface, basically.
Yeah. And of course, mostly if you're looking at DeFi, people went with the AMM style first, the kind of the curvy thing. Of course, there is a difference in like how they execute, right? An AMM executes just based on like the ratio of assets in the pool versus the limit book where you're actually setting prices for yourself. Do you have any insight into why it took so long for you? Because I think you're the first on an EVM-based chain. Why it took so long to get CLOB style, central limit order book style DEX going?
Yes, definitely. This is more my opinion, but in reality, if you look at the history of evolution of AMMs, it is kind of interesting, right? Again, I told you back in 2017-18, I was part of a central limit order book project that was running on Ethereum. But if you think about just TradFi, or if you think about Binance, right? When people trade using these clubs, what happens, right? You press the button to trade and trades execute immediately, right? When you put these central limit order books on top of a blockchain like Ethereum, the problem is when you press trade, first, you have to pay hefty fees, right? It's not cheap to enter these orders. Yeah. Second, once you pay that fee, you wait for a long time, right? On Ethereum, transaction confirmation, where you need many transaction confirmations where it's secure, can take up to 10 minutes, right? So think about it this way. You're trying to buy Bitcoin or AVAX. You press the button, you pay the $300 fee, and then you wait for 10 minutes. 10 minutes is an eternity in crypto. And, depending on what kind of FUD is hitting the market, prices can move, right? Yeah. So Ethereum in that sense, and in the sense of user experience, didn't work well, right? So a bunch of, and this is really a protocol problem. The protocol itself is, highly utilized, doesn't have enough capacity, doesn't have finality. And I'm talking Ethereum 1.0. Obviously 2.0 may change that, but it was a protocol problem that some smart folks came up with Uniswap to work around, right? They simplified the order matching logic by creating the constant product formula, which is the ratio between two assets, which allowed them to get rid of the order book concept and allowed people to start trading with one click. The downside, though, is when you use an AMM, you're effectively, paying a larger spread, and the larger you trade, the more expensive it becomes. So if I sort of bring it back to Dexalot, right? Dexalot is intended to bring institutional market makers to provide liquidity to the community. And in effect, our target and our goal is to provide much tighter prices, much deeper liquidity, and again, no compromise on the user experience by putting it on chain. But of course, because we are on the blockchain, everything is transparent. You can see all of the orders on the blockchain. Everything is going to be decentralized, meaning, Binance is notorious for turning off withdrawals, for example. Dexalot will not be able to do that because, again, the logic itself is going to be on the blockchain. And those are sort of the types of things that we wanted to solve with Dexalot. The goal, again, is to create value for the community, create value for the people that want to buy and sell assets, and eliminate this monopoly enjoyed by centralized exchanges. Sorry, I got carried away a little bit and I talked a lot, but I feel strongly about this. So
that's perfect. And it's good that you're excited, right? If you were just answering every question with yes or no, I think we'd be done very quickly.
Yes, exactly. Yes, sir. That's correct.
I mean, I heard some great stuff that I was definitely curious about. Basically, you could look at Dexalot as having two kinds of competitors, the AMMs and the centralized exchanges. Your value proposition is different depending on which one you look at. Could you just summarize, like, if I'm just a random user, like, how would you sell Dexalot to me right now?
Yeah. So centralized exchanges. Let's talk about each of these alternatives in a very quick and simple way. Centralized exchanges take your assets from you and they put it in their own wallets. Crypto, everybody that's involved in crypto knows, not your keys, not your crypto, right? Dexalot, in comparison, is non-custodial. The assets do not go to a specific entity. They stay on the blockchain. Number one big difference. Number two, centralized exchanges can shut off withdrawals, deposits, right? Again, Dexalot is on-chain. It's not going to be disabling withdrawals or deposits in that manner. Number three, centralized exchanges may be doing, stuff with your assets, right? Because you're giving it to them. If you actually look at the Binance wallet, again, I don't want to bash Binance too much, but if you look at Binance wallet, they have been staking your AVAX that you're keeping on the Binance hot wallet and earning rewards and not really passing that back to you. Mm-hmm. Dexalot assets will not leave blockchain. Your assets are not going to be risked for some other activity. And transparency, right? All centralized exchanges turn off at times. There have been scandals on perpetual swap exchanges, like big ones, where when they're having outages, they have been known to disable their clients first while keeping their internal market making desk open. And, when you're a black box, people don't know this, right? Until somebody does a whistleblow type thing. Again, Dexalot being on chain, you don't have this problem. So those are sort of the big points comparing Dexalot versus a centralized exchange. Going to the second part of your question, AMM versus Dexalot, right? Yeah. So AMMs are also non-custodial. They don't take control of your assets. So they're similar in that sense. But AMMs have a few more problems versus the way stuff is traded. So AMMs use the constant product formula, which you mentioned as well, which basically means you link two assets together and the price is really the ratio between them. That means that the larger the trade that you'd like to do, the higher the slippage that you pay using an AMM. In the case of Dexalot, however, because you have institutional grade market makers who connect to many markets, they may be able to manage that risk across different markets while you're trading, effectively giving you a much better price for your larger order. Okay, number one. So in reality, Dexalot should provide a better price as we onboard these institutional grade professional market makers.
Does this
number
also,
two,
sorry to interrupt you. Yep. Does it then also mean that liquidity depth, which is very important for AMMs to get the best price, is not so relevant for Dexalot?
Absolutely. So, okay, think about how AMMs get depth, right? AMMs require the community to bring their capital, the projects to bring their capital, and lock them in these liquidity pools, right? When you do that, there are a few things. Number one, the people who lock their assets in there are taking the risk of impermanent loss. That's number one. Number two, the larger the TVL, the larger the target, the target on your back for hacking and exploit events, right? Because you, as a protocol, maintaining a large amount of TVL, people who are very, adversarial in the crypto system, who are looking to exploit these protocols, are coming after you, trying to steal those assets. In contrast, Dexalot is going to have market makers whose job it is to keep the order books deep and whose job it is to give good prices to people. Nobody else is going to have to come in and lock in their capital. So there's going to be less TVL, better prices, right? So TVL is not a good metric. So that's one other comparison that I can make. And last point I'll make here, and I know I'm sort of talking a lot.
That's fine. we're here to listen to you. We're not here to listen to
I know. I just want to give you some space as well. Again, I feel so strongly about it. We're right about to launch, as you know. I don't want to get too carried away. I want to make sure you have questions that you ask as well. So central limit order books are transparent constructs, right? People can see who's buying and where they're trying to buy, and people can see who's selling and where they can try to sell. And as you know, listing of new assets in cryptos have been very difficult, right? When you list new assets on AMMs, because the AMM works with a constant product formula, bad things happen. And we believe that Dexalot is in a prime position to solve this listing problem. And that's one benefit that other AMM style protocols are not able to do today. So that's just something I wanted to mention as a difference as well.
I hear you. I think you're talking about Discovery, right? Dexalot Discovery.
Yes, sir. It's Dexalot Discovery.
Perfect moment, because that's definitely a good topic to talk about as well. Dexalot Discovery, my understanding, is whenever you already mentioned it a little bit. Whenever a token launches on a DEX, you often see it's getting front run by bots. Price pumps up, and then the community buys it and kind of gets dumped on. Mm-hmm. We have rJOE that's offering a solution, and Dexalot has its own solution, which is Dexalot Discovery. Tell me something a little bit. Tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, sure, of course. So Dexalot Discovery, in a nutshell, is a transparent, fair, new asset listing mechanism utilizing the central limit order book and an auction. Okay, that's what it really is. Now, let's briefly talk about what the market normally, operates as, right? In the market, you have buyers and sellers that are simultaneously interacting with each other, right? There is no gap in the market. There is no gate of buyers first, sellers later type thing. And Dexalot Discovery is really trying to create the exact same dynamic, with the exception that it's removing the advantage of speed, okay? As you mentioned, when you list assets on an AMM directly, because it happens in one transaction, the next transaction coming in is going to purchase that asset, that newly listed asset, at the cheapest possible price, right? Yeah. And that creates this advantage of speed where whoever is the first transaction coming in is going to win versus the next guy, and then it's going to sort of snowball from there, right? What we've been observing is new assets being listed, bots were spamming the network, clogging the C chain, getting in first, pumping the price, then retail would come in, buy at that high price, then the bots would turn around and sell on top of those retail sort of buyers, right? Yeah. Dexalot Discovery is going to eliminate this by opening up the order book without any matching for 24 hours, okay? Just to walk you through the steps. People will invest into a project. Let's talk Dexalot's token ALOT. Yeah. There are a group of private investors. There are a group of IDO investors who already have invested or are investing into the project, and they will get a certain allocation, right? Dexalot is directly integrated into Avalanche, and before the token is unlocked for people to pull it into their wallets, we'll create a 24-hour auction period where instead of pulling the tokens into your wallet, you will be able to deposit them into Dexalot. So if you're an already owner of the token, you'll be able to go into Dexalot and place sell orders because your tokens will be deposited to Dexalot. This is the sell side. Yeah. On the buy side, no barriers whatsoever. If you want to buy a lot, you can bring your AVAX, deposit directly into Dexalot, and place your buy orders. And during this 24-hour period, people will see who's willing to sell, who's willing to buy, and what price. And as people sort of enter prices to buy and sell, at the end of this 24-hour period, we will disable order acceptance for a short amount of time, do the matches. Whoever's orders are matching with each other will get a fill. We'll create basically an opening price, similar to how traditional markets open. And from that point on, it's live trading. There is literally no gap, fair, transparent price discovery, and it's completely auction-based. And that's how it's supposed to work. No barriers for buyers, no barriers for sellers. We're allowing both sides to participate equally in the central limit order book.
Exactly. And I hear some differences there already with, if you compare it, for example, with rJOE, which is doing something similar on an AMM style DEX. For example, of course, in rJOE, there is a more limited amount of people who typically can participate. Is that the only difference, or is there other differences in your opinion?
So rJOE is a LBP-based solution, and it is a solution for AMM style listings, right? So, like this is a tricky topic. So I want to make sure that I don't get misunderstood. rJOE has sort of made a big impact in the ecosystem, right? These are my opinions, and these are not my opinions about rJOE. This is my opinion about the mechanism that rJOE is, okay? Just want to clarify that. So the way rJOE works, you have to stake JOE tokens, number one, right? That will give you rJOE, right? Which effectively is the token that will allow you to participate in this price discovery mechanism that rJOE is. The number one difference here is the fact that any investor that wants to buy these new tokens has to buy JOE tokens first. And this, in my mind, is a barrier, okay? If I'm a guy that has a total of $100 to invest into this new token, because maybe I don't have so much money, I only have $100, that means some of that $100 needs to be staked as JOE tokens, okay? Number one. Number two, when the rJOE price discovery is happening, it is basically a period of deposit where only buyers are able to participate, okay? And during this phase, you're not buying just the token you want to invest in. You're buying AVAX and the token that you're investing in. So again, going back to the 100 example, let's just, for the hypothetical case, let's say I had staked $30 of JOE. Now I'm stuck with 70. Now, with that 70, half of that 70 needs to be AVAX. Half of the 70 needs to be the token that I want to get, right? 35. Obviously, the numbers could be wrong, but this is the second barrier where you have to spend money to purchase AVAX while purchasing the other actual asset that you're trying to buy. So these are the biggest differences, in my opinion, right? There are two additional barriers versus Dexalot Discovery. The second mechanism, the second difference, I guess, that I personally don't like is the fact that you're gating users. Like the deposit phase only allows buyers to participate. And then after the deposit is done, then you have no buyers in the market and only sellers really can participate. Of course, you can do workarounds here and you can lock people up, etc. And that works to a certain degree. But, going back to my original point, markets don't work this way, okay? Markets work where both the buyers and the sellers actively trade and they actively participate with each other. And when there is only one-sided action in any direction for a certain period of time, the markets always revert. In fact, in the algo trading world, if your algo is pushing the market, meaning you are the only buyer, you're pushing it up, as soon as your algo is done, the market reverts. This phenomenon is called reversion. So in that sense, I know rJOE and TraderJOE team is really trying to solve this problem. I'm just not sold on this solution, to be honest with you. Those are the differences that I can tell you about.
Yeah.
Two more things, actually, I should tell you. We've also understood that our solution is novel. Like, it's not like other people have done something like this before. Yes, we have a lot of experience in doing stuff like this from traditional finance, but crypto is crypto, and we didn't want to sort of ask another project to take the risk. That's why, even though the Dexalot Discovery code was implemented a while ago, we wanted to list the ALOT token with it first before asking another project to sort of take this risk. And second, we also ran 3 testnet battles in the Fuji network, incentivizing the community to come in, participate, to learn, so that we ourselves can learn and really vet the process. So those are the other differences I've seen with the Dexalot approach versus alternatives as well. So I think those are worth mentioning as well.
Definitely, because it raises 2 more interesting topics. First of all, of course, you've already briefly mentioned it before, but the ALOT token. Can you maybe just briefly introduce it? Like, what's it for? Why might people want to purchase it in Avalanche or then on the discovery phase on Dexalot?
Yes, sir. Yeah, of course. So ALOT is intended to be the native token for the Dexalot platform, let's call it, right? Right now, its main function is governance, where Dexalot and actually the ALOT token is being issued by the Dexalot Foundation. The Dexalot Foundation is separate to the team that is developing, and ultimately the foundation is going to, decide on the next features, next implementations of how the ALOT token is going to be used. And that's going to be done through proposals, and hence people acquiring the ALOT token will actually have a say in what happens with the token, right? This is the nearer term thing that will happen. Number 2, the ALOT token is actually going to evolve into the actual currency or actual gas currency when Dexalot moves to the subnet. As you can imagine, Dexalot already works decently well, but it's not working as well as it can be because we are still on the C chain. When you're on the C chain, it's a generic chain. Basically, what that means is when there is a big NFT drop, right? When I say NFT, the thing that comes to mind is chicken, because I like chickens. But, when there's a big NFT drop, basically people fight and, again, have that speed edge or that speed race, let's call it, to try and mint NFTs, right? That clogs up the C chain. That in turn impacts Dexalot's ability to have finalized transactions. So Dexalot has to move to a subnet so that we can decouple these effects, right? When we move to the subnet, ALOT token is most likely, again, it's difficult for me to guarantee this because, subnet is still in the works, but most likely will be the gas plus the staking token so that people will be able to run nodes and validators for the subnet, right?
Yeah.
Third thing, and I want to put this out to the community, again, Dexalot team can't really decide this. People have to propose and vote on it, but the natural mechanism through which exchanges, AMMs, create value for their users is by, doing some sort of collection of fees into the foundation, and those fees being, adding value to the token itself. Obviously, there are a lot of ideas about this, but again, I want to emphasize that the community needs to decide on how this should work. Do they want a buyback? Do they want a distribution? I have no idea. This is not something we can decide. Community should put out proposals forth, and basically people will have the ability to define how the value is going to be created for this token themselves. So I feel this is sort of a powerful model. The product works, institutional market makers will be there, and it's really going to be up to the people to decide how it will work. But that's what the ALOT token is.
Amazing. Yeah, sounds really interesting. Looking forward to the subnet. Just before we head into a little UI tour, briefly just want to talk about, you mentioned the performance, of course, of Dexalot on C chain. That's why you're moving to a subnet. And you mentioned before the testnet battles. I assume that those maybe also have been used by you to, see how everything works from a technical perspective. Any interesting learnings from there?
Absolutely. I mean, we want to test before we ask people to use it, right? Like I said, we don't want to be in a situation where we have an unfortunate, unexpected bad events that affects another project, right? If we're building something, Google is famous for doing this, by the way. It's called dog fooding, right? They build stuff, they use it internally to the firm, internally to their company first before giving it to clients. And we're sort of going with the same run book, right? First, you build it, you test it in the test network, you even incentivize your community to come and try it, check it out, learn about it, give you feedback. We've done it 3 times now. Then you use it on your own listing, and that's that's the state that we're at. The ALOT token will be listed using this mechanism. And then once you prove it, then you ask other projects to sort of come online and use your technology. And to be clear, I don't want to come off too self-confident either. Nobody gets these things perfect in the first try, right? And we sort of look at it as a learning journey, but again, earlier part of the journey needs to be involving you rather than others. And that's why we're launching this way. Testnet battles have been extremely educated, by the way. We've seen that people actually understood how the process works. We've seen, behavioral differences. We've identified capacity problems where, we actually received more orders than expected once, which led to some bugs being uncovered on the front end, nothing on the blockchain, of course. Mm-hmm. And it allowed us to improve the product before we hit mainnet. Right. So, it was an extremely educative experience. Hopefully our community liked it. And people who read the instructions and were successful in matching are also going to get a reward. So I feel like this was a really nice win-win situation for us as well as the community.
Yeah, this sounds like an amazing way to do it. With that, maybe a good moment for me to share my screen and let's walk through the UI together. Can you see it?
Yes, sir.
All right. So we're on the Dexalot.com homepage. Would you prefer if we use Fuji or the mainnet? Because it's live on both.
Sorry, I didn't hear the question. You can use either, to be honest with you. Both of them should be working. But, when I did demos to people, I usually did mainnet just because on the testnet, you have other assets like our mock assets, etc. will be visible. Completely up to you. Both of them should work.
Then I think I should be already on mainnet, so we'll just go with mainnet.
Perfect. Mm-hmm.
All right, so first thing, I click Launch App. The first thing we see is 2 pairs, AVEX USDC and AVEX USDT. Are those the 2 pairs that are live right now?
Correct. So we've only listed 2 pairs, just so people know, under the covers. The Dexalot's own market-making software is populating these order books. We are doing this ourselves. But in reality, as an exchange, we are looking to work with professional market makers. It just takes a while for big players to integrate into your exchange, but we still wanted to give a taste to the community. We still wanted to show that the product works. That's why we only listed 2 assets. We could use our market maker to add more assets, of course, but the reason why we're not doing it is because it adds more value, and it's better if we coordinate this with the market makers. This is definitely going to be something that's going to change in the near future. Obviously, everybody's been asking us to add more assets. We will do that once our market making partnerships actually go live. So stay tuned on that one.
I see. So it looks like there's a great arbitrage opportunity between the USDC and the USDT pair at the moment.
It's possible.
I'll resist the temptation for now. What's the next best button to press? I see get started here, but I also see the trade button next to these.
Yeah, I usually recommend trade. Get started probably will work as well. But most people, in my opinion, and this UX is actually going to improve in the near term as well. They usually just want to go to the exchange, right? So I typically, when I talk to my friends, I say go ahead and start trading.
Go to the pair that you want. I'm actually not sure if I have any USDC or USDT on this account. I do have some AVEX, I think, preloaded already to the app. That's what this is, right?
Yep, that's it. That's correct.
Because whenever you start trading on Dexalot, you have to deposit some funds in.
Correct. I mean, so just to be clear, that deposit is not leaving the blockchain. It actually is staying with the smart contract. And it is intended to basically tell Dexalot that you have the assets to trade, right? Because, if the assets are not part of the smart contract, then the smart contract cannot accept orders. When you place orders, the assets are locked up so that, you can't spoof the market, right? That's sort of the reason why you need to do that.
Otherwise I could make a very fake sell order.
Correct.
At $90 of like.
We are, given that you've been gracious enough to sort of do this interview with us, we are working, and I'll give you a little bit of alpha for your watchers.
Ooh.
We are working on a brand new improvement where people who want to do quick trades will be able to do it in a faster and more efficient way. So stay tuned. That will probably come after our listing. I don't want to give an exact timeline, but once we list, once we know Dexalot Discovery is good to go, that logic has been worked on already. It's in testing, and it will be available to our users pretty soon.
That's exciting. Does it also mean that in the future, for example, we could see one of those aggregators like YieldJack, FireStorm?
Absolutely. I actually had this conversation with one of the good folks who is part of AVentures DAO, because that gentleman who has been helping me in many places actually is part of the YieldJack team as well. We had a brief conversation about it, and it is definitely one of the items that is on top of my list. I'm kind of the guy who's dealing with the partnerships, the discussions with the other teams. So it's on my list to sort of chase as soon as we finish Dexalot Discovery.
Exciting. Yeah, I love using the aggregators personally. So
exactly. Everybody does. Yeah.
Let's quickly walk through the UI. On the left, I can see the 2 pairs. I could favor them, but with 2 pairs, this is still manageable, I think.
Yep. You can, by the way, click on the arrow right next to the search box to minimize that. Yep, there you go. Which gives you.
This. I kind of like that.
Yeah, it gives you the icons, but it at least gives you a little bit more real estate to see the chart and etc.
Yeah. Then these are all the sell orders which are in the book.
Correct.
So basically price, the amount of AVEX, and the total value of that line. And these are the buy orders. I can see a fairly large buy order at 81. So that's a nice floor price in this exchange. The chart, I'm going to be very honest, I do not do technical analysis. Does it have any technical analysis capabilities or?
So I think under the covers, we're using a fairly standard library that's being used across many other platforms. I don't think we have technical analysis capability yet, but it is something that was discussed. But really, when people do their analysis, they don't necessarily use the exchanges. So we didn't focus on this piece ourselves yet, just so you know.
Yeah, I don't need
it. But the library, the underlying library, The underlying library has that capability. It would just be a matter of sort of exposing it. I'm not a technical analysis guy, dude. I don't believe in that stuff as much. I know some of the viewers may. I'm not saying it doesn't work or anything, but I personally never use it. So
I find it very interesting because you worked on algorithmic trading bots, but you do not believe in TA. So there is.
so I mean, algorithmic trading is more about quantitative analysis and signals and information edge rather than like lines and shapes that the price is making. We know what I mean. Like macro is one thing, quantitative signals is another. I just never have been able to wrap my head around how TA works. Again, I'm not saying it doesn't work. Some people find value in it. I just haven't been able to use it effectively ever. That's been sort of my story.
It's I feel a little bit similar about it. And then, of course, on the right side, we have the trade history, all of the trades that have happened recently. Red are the sells and green are the buys. I think that's reasonably self-explanatory. And this is quite interesting. The AVEX and USDC price on Binance and the AVEX and USD price on CoinGecko.
Yeah. The reason why we put it there is because, we knew that there were going to be some basic ARB opportunities until we have a lot of arbitrage software or like market makers that connect to the exchange. So we just wanted to make it easy for our early adopters to see where the Binance price is and see where our exchange price is. And if they want to act on it, by all means, they can. Again, the exchanges care most about prices being accurate. And if, the market makers are wide and there are orders in the order book that need to be cleaned up, they should be cleaned up, right? We view sort of keeping the price in line with the rest of the market as a service to everybody. So that's why we placed that feature there so that people can see it easily. Yeah.
That makes me very much in the mood to rather buy than sell any AVEX at this point. I'm not sure that if I have any. No, I don't have any stables in this wallet, so that's a shame. So in order to make use of the interface, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna set a price that's not at the current average here. So I'll just say I don't even want to sell AVEX per se, so I'll just say 90. And if I get that anytime soon, I'll still be happy, I think. And I have 3.3 in my wallet, 3.03, so I can just press max there. That's my total use.
So the only thing I would tell you is you need to leave some in your wallet for gas payments, right? So keep that in mind, right?
But there's a difference between the AVEX that I've deposited here and the AVEX in my wallet that I'll use for gas, right?
Correct, of course. What I mean is in your wallet, you need to have AVEX as well. What you have deposited is different.
I cannot press max deposit in here, and if this is AVEX, all of it, then it would be an issue. Yeah, gotcha.
Cool.
Total here, network fee, quite cheap because AVEX. And if I press sell AVEX and confirm that in MetaMask.
The one thing that I'll tell you, I think I'm not sure if it will be a problem in the recording, but MetaMask pop-up is not visible, at least on my screen share, just so you know.
That is correct, because I am currently only sharing my desktop, but the recording software is loading, should be recording the screen.
Perfect.
So,
perfect.
And otherwise, people, just for your information, I pressed confirm.
Awesome. Thank you.
So here at 90, you can now see my sell order. At $90, 3.03 AVEX, and this is the total amount. If someone decides to buy, the price creeps up, people want to arbitrage it, and it gets to here, this will be executed automatically, and then I will have USDC, I assume.
Yes, sir. That's how it works.
And that's how it works. And that's how you can make some neat arbitrage profits right now. And I think as more and more pages pairs come up, I think people are familiar. I assume that more than that I have any information for it. I assume people are somewhat familiar with this interface because it is the ones that the DEXs use. But people can also just do market orders, right? Or?
Yeah, so the market order functionality actually exists as a part of our software. We just haven't enabled it. Market orders are tricky in C-Chain, and I'll explain why. We don't want, so when you trade, the person taking liquidity in the market is the one paying the gas. So when you're using market orders, it is sensible to take a look at how many other orders you're going to interact against, right? Because your gas can really increase. So we didn't enable market orders for the time being. And in the subnet, it will be much easier to enable it. But this is something we're evaluating. Like, if we don't see many small orders on the exchange, we may give the ability to do market orders fairly soon, just so you know.
I understand, because I guess if there was many 0.07 AVEX orders, you would pay the gas for all of the executions against it.
Exactly. Like, we don't want people to not realize that they're going to end up paying large gas and then have a bad experience later. So that's sort of why we've gone with a staggered release for now.
Makes perfect sense. I think that's mostly it for the interface right now. Of course, if there's anything else, please tell me. I have my orders here. If I at any point feel like that $90 is too low, and I do, then I could just press cancel. I will leave it here for now, just for the sake of the video, because I don't think we're urgently going to reach 90. Portfolio.
No, that's it.
Is where my stuff is. As you can see, I have some AVEX in my wallet, which I need to pay gas. And I do not have any stables at all, whatsoever. And transfers. What's transfer supposed to show? Is it like in and out, deposits and
in and out at times? Yeah. I mean, the goal with, again, the interface, and I'm not saying the interface is perfect. We are working on various improvements there, but the goal with the interface is make it look comfortable and familiar, right? Almost all the crypto users that arrive in Avalanche or anywhere else start with these centralized exchanges. So our goal, again, just to emphasize, was to create the same or similar user experience, except give them the underlying decentralization, transparency, and sort of community-owned technology, basically.
Yeah, and personally, I do enjoy staring at order books sometimes. So that's my TA. Yeah, I know the feeling, man. And I know we're slowly creeping up on a full hour here, but I do want to ask you about some of the future plans for Dexalot. You already mentioned subnet and the integration of market makers. What else should people, of course, the launch of the token, what else should people be excited for still?
Yeah, so, the subnet migration, to be fully honest with you, is our number one priority. We have been closely working with Ava Labs on this part. There are certain things that need to be supported as a part of the subnet technology, but that's the number one thing, in my opinion, and I personally expect. Next thing, I guess I can talk a little bit about the cool things that can be done in the subnets, right? So Dexalot, in reality, is a perfect candidate for subnets because, think about what the EVM is, right? EVM is kind of like the operating system on your computer. I'm not a Windows guy, but imagine what Windows does is it lets you watch videos, lets you write text, lets you play games, yada, 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 right? But if you had an operating system that does nothing other than exchange functionality, you would get rid of a lot of logic that you don't need, right? You would clean up the code, you would optimize your logic specifically for exchange functions. So that means we'll be able to optimize latency. Theoretical numbers show anywhere from 10 to 100x latency improvement, right? What does that mean in concrete numbers? Right now in the Avalanche C chain, transactions can finalize anywhere from 300 milliseconds to maybe up to a second or a second and a half. 10 times improvement would be 30 milliseconds on the best end, and 30 milliseconds is comparable to traditional finance. Trust me when I say there are markets out there in the FX world that are much slower than 30 milliseconds, right? So it's an incredible opportunity for us to sort of be the first there. Second, we'll be able to control the fees and, to incentivize institutional market makers to start operating in the space. We are going to, we're thinking about creating incentives for people who trade more, who have more volume on the exchange, to pay less fees, right? It makes sense. The less fees you pay, the more likely you will trade. So we're thinking about building these things. And lastly, subnets would allow us to build logic to monitor and comply with laws and regulations in the future. Obviously, right now this is a gray area. Nobody really knows how the regulations will shape. But as you know, our team is very institutional. We want to do the right thing for our community. We want to do the right thing from a legal perspective. So the subnets will allow us to sort of make that easy in the future when the rules are here, right? Mm-hmm. Separately to the subnets, I think I mentioned there is going to be new order types, which will allow users to basically trade maybe faster or maybe simpler. Some basic things that we've always been asked about are stop loss orders, take profit orders, again, standard functionality on centralized exchanges. And, the last thing, and this is one of the things that, our CMO actually mentioned, which to be honest with you, hadn't dawned on me until he mentioned Dexalot Discovery, even though we've been thinking about it as a new token listing price discovery mechanism. If you think about it, it's a price discovery mechanism. It doesn't have to be tokens, right? Mm-hmm. If and when there is anything that needs a price discovered, that's not a token. Like this, basic thing could be like an NFT. Dexalot Discovery could expand into that. Again, this is not something we're working on actively or anything, but I feel strongly about expanding Dexalot Discovery, especially if we succeed with it, right? Other things on the partnership side, the big thing that we are very excited and are working on is what I call the white glove to listings and liquidity. Mm-hmm. And just to expand that, imagine you're a gaming project, right? You're an awesome developer, you're an awesome gamer, you're building a game. You don't necessarily know how the markets work. You don't know the intricacies of AMMs. You don't know what a CLOB is, yada, yada, yada. Right. And right now, a lot of projects suffer from this lack of knowledge, and their amazing products get overshadowed by bad launches, bad listings, bad liquidity, etc. Us at Dexalot have partnered with Avalanche for this purpose, where people will do their IDO. Then we would basically streamline their price discovery, their market making relationships. And then we're also working with AMMs to make it easy for people to create their incentivized farms, right? When you bring it all together and when you offer this as a very streamlined, very well-oiled process to these projects to use, they no longer have to worry about the markets. They no longer have to worry about the intricacies. We kind of want to be the partners to all of these cool projects, all of these primitives being built, to help them go from A to Z in terms of their market needs, in terms of their liquidity, in terms of their listings. So that's the big thing that we're working on right now. A couple of the projects already signed up with Dexalot Discovery. I'm actually writing an article to describe this more in detail. So stay tuned. That's another thing that we're sort of working on.
It sounds exciting. And indeed, I think it's great for projects to be able to focus on, what their core product is rather than all the tokenomic stuff, which there's always partners available that you can partner with, but I think for the actual launching part, it's always tricky. Absolutely. So the more the merrier, and I think the Discovery does sound like an amazing product for that. We're at the hour for our time. I'm not sure if you have a few more minutes to run to the final questions.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I have time as long as you still want to talk to me. I'm happy to.
We'll do another.
I'm happy to share whatever I can, man.
Awesome. Well, I just wanted to ask a little bit. You've mentioned already a little bit. You're launching ALOT first. It's the first token you launch because you want to experience it yourself. You're doing the testnet battles. What is Dexalot's philosophy when it comes to security, and how are you gonna?
Of course.
How you're approaching now, you talked about a little bit, and how are you going to be approaching it in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, why don't I start with the philosophy I've observed in crypto in general, which I don't like, and then I'll tell you what we're doing to combat that, right?
Sure, yeah.
So crypto moves extremely fast, right? We recognize that. Projects evolve quickly, people build very quickly, yada, yada, yada. And you see a lot of bad exploit events that also occur. This is part of the game. I get it. This is growing pains. But we as the builders, we as the community need to do better about protecting the assets of our clients. Let's take some examples from the past. What do projects do? They focus on their products and they outsource their security by going to auditors, right? You write smart contracts. And the next thing you do is you go out to auditors who are supposed to be experts on smart contracts, As soon as they say, yes, this is good, you raise your hand and you say, oh, I'm done. I've been audited. I'm safe. Like, you have to get audited. Nobody's questioning it, but we have to remember that these auditing teams, these auditing products are also made up of people, and it's not a 100% guarantee that you're safe, right? Mm-hmm. And leaving all of your security concerns, leaving all of your protection mechanisms to a outsourced firm is a bad practice. I'm just going to say it, right? In my opinion, it's bad practice because it's not good incentive alignment. Like, when we think about how to build new products, we think about aligning our exchange's incentives with the project's incentives, with the community's incentives. If you think about it, auditing is a good thing, but it's not necessarily aligning your clients, your community's incentives with the auditors, with you. Auditors don't really get burnt when something, is missed, right? So we're actually taking a more comprehensive approach than just auditing. So number one, our design does not require TVL. As I mentioned, we're going to work with market makers who will have enough liquidity and enough capital. And for people to trade, I'm not going to need, billions of dollars to be put into the product so that they have deep liquidity. Just by the design, TVL not being a requirement makes us a smaller target for exploiters or hackers to sort of attack. Number one. Number two, of course, we're doing audits. Ava Labs helped us audit our code. We're also working with external parties to do the audits. Again, this is standard. I'm not going to spend too much time on it. Third, rigorous testing, right? You got to test your stuff. You got to dog food your stuff. That's what we're doing with this Dexalot Discovery Testnet Battle. We have internal testing as well. Again, goes without saying, I see too many projects, launching stuff without testing. It's not good, right? One additional thing we're doing, we have open bug bounties. Anybody who identifies bugs, reaches out to us, lets us know it exists, we will reward those people. This is always open. We have a big network of white hats, let's call them, that we are working with. And, so far, so good. And last item, actually not last item, but the last important item I'm going to say is we are working on an independent piece of software that is watching the activity on chain, evaluating the activity that is going through the smart contract, and independently applying business rules to it to detect bad activity. Now, think about how exchanges work in traditional finance. Again, I go there only because this is a solved problem there. Mm-hmm. Think about how big companies protect customer assets. Yes, they build algos, they build this, that, but they also build additional products that independently watch the activity, independently watch for bugs, and alert and potentially shut stuff down if there is bad activity happening. Shutting things down is more difficult on our side because, we're a decentralized exchange, but very quick response to bad activity being detected is paramount. So we have a separate product that is, in the process of being integrated with the exchange. It's actually running, which detected a bunch of bots, which detected a bunch of unverified contracts trading with Dexalot already. And, I can tell you we're watching every single one of those things very closely. So that's the other piece of security tech that we have that's currently active. There's more things, like we don't collect personal information. We don't retain any, special logs on our servers so that there is no risk of leaking that information, etc. And those are the types of things we're looking at as well. But I feel like they're less important versus protecting the assets of the users.
Still important, but indeed, it's not going to bankrupt me immediately if someone gets my personal information.
One more thing I should, by the way, tell you, an idea about creating an ecosystem fund as sort of insurance to protect assets against an unforeseen event. This has been sort of a conversation I had multiple times with the community. This is something that we're looking at the moment as well. It's in the idea stage, to be honest with you. Mm-hmm. But as soon as discovery is done, as soon as we have volume, we're thinking about coming up with a mechanism to do this. This may be a partnership with an insurance partner, or this may just be creation of a fund to, it's a rainy day fund, as I call it, to segregate and protect in case something goes sideways with the technology, right? So we are working on this as well.
Yeah. Makes total sense, and I think it's indeed good timing as well, because I think there are insurance players taking a look at Avalanche starting something. So maybe that could be an option, or indeed just like you said, just having a fund yourself may be good. Farm it in Dexalot, I don't know.
Absolutely, yeah.
A final question, maybe before we get to closing remarks. For the community at home, maybe some of them have participated in testnet battles, maybe some of them have not. Maybe some of them are registered for the Avalanche sale, maybe some of them are not yet. What's the best way for them to get involved now and in the near future?
So, I mean, Avalanche registration is ongoing. Right now, I think you can still register to participate and, take a look at ALOT. Number 2, Dexalot Discovery is going to be open to everybody. Again, there are no barriers. You don't have to stake anything. You don't have to do anything other than bring your AVAX if you want to participate in the Dexalot Discovery process. I would welcome anybody and everybody that's interested in doing it. Outside of that, follow us on our Twitter, join our Discord, join our Telegram, ask us about stuff. We always love to hear from the community. We always love to hear ideas from other people. So we're quite open, we're quite accessible. So, those are the ways to do it. Twitter is where we put most of our announcements on, but the Discord and Telegram are the 2 channels where we very actively engage with our community. That's sort of the way to track anything and everything Dexalot. Outside of that, watch this video, right?
Yeah, I think
hopefully that's the place to learn about us.
I think so. I hope so. I think we've heard a lot of good information today. So
yes, sir.
I think people who sat down and really got into the entirety of it, gonna come away very knowledgeable about Dexalot. Thank you so much for that, FireStorm. I really enjoyed talking to you today. I'm looking forward to using Dexalot. Any closing thoughts from your side?
No, I truly appreciate this time. Again, our goal is to create better outcomes for our community. Hopefully, this works well. And I'm looking forward to talking to you more. And, I'm looking forward to the community questions that come at the back of this video. Yeah. Again, we feel like people have ideas that we ourselves never been able to think about. So it would be amazing to hear them. So anybody watching, by all means, reach out, let us know.
Perfect. Everyone, register for the Avalanche sale. It closes the 21st. I want to say this video, I'm not sure entirely when it's going to go live, but you may have a moment still to register. Otherwise, the sale is the 22nd, I think, right?
Yes. So the sale ends on the 23rd. So registration is 1 day, 24 hours, actually 2 days away right now. Registration is going to close in 2 days as of this moment.
So if I get this video out in time, which I definitely aim to do, and I think I will, and you watch it on time, register if you've not yet and you're interested, of course. And also leave any suggestions and ideas in the comments or directly to the Dexalot team. For now, thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you in the next one, and goodbye.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, goodbye.